That comic podcast.
All right, enough time has passed. We talked about Thunderbolts. We spoiled the hell out of it. Now I want to know behind the scenes of Super Jersey Comic Expo. If everyone could be quiet for a little bit, it's story time with Paul.
Can we get some hard copy music for this?
So just as a little backstory here, and you've heard us talk about this on the show quite a few times, that Paul was gracious enough to ask us to help him with his social media and to get content throughout the weekend. But when I showed up, there were some things happening where I ended up going out and getting banners. And then every time I saw Paul, it seemed like he was dealing with some other fire that he was putting out. And I kept going back to the guys, and Features was killing it, getting interviews, and Moshko and Buzz at the table, they were killing it. Like, everything on the floor seemed to be great. But every single time I saw Paul, I swear another patch of hair was missing.
I had a friend post, and he said, my buddy Ken, he said he was a vendor there, and he said at one point, he goes, I got to see Paul for a few seconds, and it looked like he was aging in dog years.
Wow. Well, Paul, real quick,
true. Yeah,
the journey of Super Jersey Comic Expo. If we can, just for anybody who might be new or not in the area, who might not get a chance to visit, what is Super Jersey Comic Expo from the person who created it?
It originally started as a comic show, a small comic show in Middletown, New Jersey, where I was hired because of what I do for a full-time living, and I ended up becoming friends with the two people who ran that. The three of us are now partners, and Super Jersey was always kind of meant to just be a comic show with a Comic-Con feel. I guess that's maybe the best way that I could put it, because anyone who's been to a comic show versus a Comic-Con knows the difference. A comic show is like what happened yesterday with Bill Bead, in Cherry Hill. Those are what our area is legend for, whereas Comic-Cons kind of have taken on like a bit of a ubiquitous phrasing where you don't know if it's a Comic-Con when you walk in the door, because it's hard to find comics. And that's what Super Jersey always started out was, we announced the show in late 2019, early 2020. Due to COVID, we had to postpone it 3 times, and it didn't end up happening the first time until November of 2021. So we did November 21, November 22, October 28th, but with what happened in, October of 2023 was just, we had to find a new home. So it was either shit or get off the pot at that point. And even though this is our 4th year, this was technically our 1st year. Super Jersey was always meant to be a comic book super show. I didn't think that it would ever get to be this large in such a short amount of time. And as, you were saying, seeing it like I was putting out 5 fires at a time is the absolute truth. But what I was always taught by my mentor, who I used to run Beer Fest with and everything like that, John Henderson, was, an event producer has a duty to make sure everybody is having a good time, even when they're not. So you cannot be a party spoiler. You cannot be a negative Nancy. You have to keep all of your cards very guarded. So regardless of whether I am screaming at the top of my lungs and crying for my mother to come ask me to come home, everyone else has to have a good time. And I have a duty to them to not allow them to see me, how I am on the inside. And because if I do that, my attendees will not have a good time. That is a job. That is the cross to bear for an event producer. It's like I disagree with people who say, "Oh, I put my kids first before everything." I feel like that's the wrong way to go about it. If you and your partner are not taken care of first, everything else trickles down. So when you put something, my personal quips, gripes, and problems behind the scenes of an event, I can't hold that over the heads of my vendors, my attendees, and everyone like that. Smoke and mirrors. It has to be. So I can't let it show that I am literally on the verge of anxious death. And that's just how it is. And some people are cut out for it, and just honestly, some people are not.
I didn't show at all. I think you killed it. I think everybody had a great time, except for the air conditioning on the first day. Past that, everybody really did have a great time, and no one saw. Like, there was multiple times I came up to you and I was like, "Oh, damn, I shouldn't bother him," but you were like, "No, we have to take care of this for you."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, and that's how it has to happen, and I think that, the fact that we went from a one-day comic book super show at the building where they filmed Severance, which is, of course, now I'm angry because the Lumen building from Severance is where I used to have a Comic-Con.
Wow.
They fucked us over royally. We moved, and now it is the home base workplace of the most popular streaming series of all fucking time. So now I don't have a Comic-Con there. But now I have a Comic-Con at the Dome. And I'm hoping, and the way it looks is that, despite the growing pains that all of us had, which, if I did a great job of hiding it, awesome. I wanted to die. Put it this way.
I could tell.
I could. So I think I think out of all of you, probably Buzz is most familiar with my way origins, right? We're talking like 25 years ago-ish or so. And, I've been producing events since I was 16 years old, technically, but I've been producing large-scale events for 15 to 20 years. So, having a large event as it was at Bellworks, which was our old building, the Lumen building in Holmdel, and now biting off a triple-size bite of what we used to do without really changing much operationally showed behind the scenes. Everything was on fire. Nothing was okay. And everything was okay up until probably the morning of the show. A lot of people had gotten in from their flights. Stefan Kapicic got in, I want to say, Thursday. Salvador LaRocca got in like Tuesday or Wednesday because he flew in from Spain for the show. So having to manage all these personalities, and not even the personalities, but the people responsible for guarding the personalities, the agents, the handlers, the people like that, those were the ones that were legitimately causing me an absolute, that was causing me an absolute nightmare behind the scenes because I had so many people mad at me and I didn't know why they were all mad at me because I was finding out things as they were happening. So, like 5 or 6 people didn't show up to work on Saturday morning, and some of those people were some of the more skilled people that we had employed in the past. So we had to put some of the newer people who I have to give them all the credit in the world. Everybody who worked with us that weekend, technically including Menti, was able to pivot on a dime and able to help us out. But they were able to be bodies where they needed to be that weren't really skilled at what they had to do. That combined with the fact that there was a massive pileup apparently on the New Jersey Turnpike, which kept a bunch of our shuttles that were bringing the guests over, both comic guests and media guests, from getting to the destination on time. So I had to pivot very, very quickly with, you should see my Uber bill. My Uber bill looks like I bought a pack of gum at CVS. It's still 26 fucking miles long, right? And well, I think the Uber bills are still coming through. Like they're just clearing now. We had to pivot so quickly on Saturday morning. It basically just set up a chain of dominoes that just kept falling because one thing wasn't getting done, the other wasn't getting done. Menti, as the banners. I drove to Nyack, New York to bring Jim Shooter down himself because that's what Jim Shooter means to me. Jim Shooter lives about 2.5 hours north of the show. So on setup day, one of the guys who created the whole show had to leave for 6 hours on setup day, which could go either way. But we're very fortunate that we had a solid team in place that was there on Friday. I go up there, and I'm not allowed to just go pick up Jim. Uncle Jim just doesn't let you grab him out of his apartment and go. You need to come sit down. You're going to have a nice chilled beverage. You're going to overlook the river and see Sing Sing across the way from his place, and he just wants to chat. And Jim right now is he is doing very well and in good spirits. Yes, people know that he's been battling with a little bit of health issues, but I can say, having talked to him multiple times recently, he felt like he was doing okay. He was feeling strong, and he's stubborn as a fucking mule. And I can tell you, for anything, getting compliments or positive sentiments out of Jim Shooter himself is not an easy task. And his words of confidence after our very first show are one of the main reasons that kept this show going. We had him the very first year, and I was walking him to his car because we had an SUV come down to get him and take him home. He sat in his car as he was getting in, and I swear we ordered an extra large SUV, and he still had to duck in. 6'9", at his tallest, and you could see all the joke panels back in this, late 70s, early 80s comics with him in it towering over every building in New York. But, he doesn't just give compliments. He's not a spryly, I love you, you're a great type person. And when he was leaving that very first show, he said, I've done a lot of shows, and I don't really love doing shows anymore, but this might have been one of the best one-day shows that I've ever done in my career. And he said, I don't know what you got going on here. I heard there was chaos behind the scene. You need to take this and you need to keep this going. So there is a small part in me with everything in the back of my head telling me to quit, telling me to, why am I doing a Comic-Con in an already crowded region of pop culture events? And a lot of that has to do with the fact that our show model, rounding that whole tangent back to our show model, is I don't feel as if there is a single convention, expo, show, that you will, that is our exact format. And that exact format is, it has to start with comics. So when you walk in the door, I want to see comic vendors all over the place. Our guests for the first 3 years were only comic legends. This year we added media guests, but, and I've had to send this to 20 different agents who don't get the fucking hint, is we have a media guest, a celebrity, if you will. I don't like calling them that, but yeah, sure. They have to have portrayed a prominent character from comics that originated in comics to be a guest at our show. And I've had to tell the guy who was the police lieutenant from Ace Ventura that. I've had to tell, third cop on the left from RoboCop 2 and Scene 6, that type of thing. It's not that I don't feel it's not that I feel like people aren't worth being a guest at my show. We have a format. And our sticking to that format is why Heroes Con has been going for decades. That is why Baltimore Comic-Con has been going for decades. I feel like we have been able to create a hybrid event that is a real Comic-Con that dips its toes into pop culture. And my hope is, and if you see the way our floor was laid out, why do you think Artist Alley is in the center of this Comic-Con? Because artists are the nucleus of comics. Without them, they do not exist. And would you believe that I had people complaining that the setup was making people avoid the Comic Artist Alley when, you're like this. You literally have to go around it to avoid Artist Alley. And some of the complaints and feedback that we had from the show are, I feel like the setup just wasn't good. It made people go right around Artist Alley. And I'm like, wait, okay.
Would you rather be on the outskirts? What do you ask?
Yeah. Right.
Well, then you put that, and that there is one of the reasons why myself and the event producers, we can't act like everything is falling apart. Is someone's cat walking on newspaper?
No, that was Huey's ice.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. It sounded quite like crunching newspaper.
I like how he brought it back. Just to verify.
He just took a bigger gulp and it's so cold. I think that we have found a way to create a show model that I don't want to say doesn't exist, but maybe it's the purest of its kind. And I think of the early 2000s comic conventions, because back in the early 2000s when all the movies started getting made, and, we saw the building blocks of a real cinematic universe 25 years ago. It just went different ways. We know that. But you would go take a look at San Diego Comic-Con from 2000, 2001, 2002. It really is. We're talking 90% comics, movies, and comic-adjacent things. And I like that. That's what I've always liked. It's somewhere between the Fan Expo Philly and the Moose Lodge comic show. I feel like there is a happy medium, but because of the way that we've all been conditioned, depending on where we go, if we only go to the fan expos or we only go to the Galaxy Cons, there's nothing wrong with that, but that's just a different format. Or if you're the guy who's only gone to the Moose Lodge shows and you hear that Jim Shooter is showing up 12 minutes from your house, and you walk in and you're like, what the fuck is this? They don't allow smoking in here. This place sucks. Like one of those guys. Like, they still allow smoking at the bar in some of these comic shows. I want that. I want that on a massive scale Obviously not the cigarette smoke, but I want those
Just say
comics.
you.
I want those comics on that scale, but I also have grown up watching these movies. These are 25 years of all of our lives since the first X-Men movie came out, right? So I'm 41, 16 years old, still in high school. You know, John, I think you were almost potty trained by then. And if you take a look at it, you know, it really, like, sometimes we don't give it as much credit as we should, because some people just blow them off as comic book movies, or they're deeper. They've been a part of our lives for a quarter century now, and those characters that started a quarter century ago are still here. So that's what I loved. When I took quite a long hiatus from reading comics for a while, it was the movies that kind of kept my mind going about them. So I think there is. You can have a big Comic-Con, actually have comics there, not pay $100 to get through the door, and stay true to the actual comic format, you know, where comics will always come first, but you will find comic adjacent things. And that was my problem, was that we went way too big for the jump. Catherine Disher herself said you went from a 3 to a 7 on the type of show that you do. And I was like, damn, okay, yes. Because she's seen every size convention you could think of. She goes, from what you told me, you were at a 3 and you hopped up right to a 7. You didn't really change anything about the way you did stuff. And I was like, yeah. And she was saying this when we were like settling up and everything for the day, you know, and she's getting ready to fly home. She goes, despite the hiccups, I loved this show. This was very fun. This was amazing. And, you know, the problems behind the scene, they were many, and a lot of them had to do with us not anticipating the amount of growth from one year to another, because we thought we had it all figured out. And the Dome, which I will say this, despite the hiccups that we saw over the weekend, we were the largest event that was ever in there. And I feel that between them and us, I would love to see a future partnership if they work out their kinks and we work out ours. I think we could have something that could be the perfect actual comic convention. And from agents yelling at me to getting texts and calls, and I lost my phone for an hour and a half on Sunday morning. Can you imagine that? Like, and then when I got it back,
I know. I was at Staples. You texted me.
Yeah, and then when I got it back, I finally found it. I had to give it to Catherine Disher to use as a Square register for 3 hours because hers wasn't working and the Wi-Fi went down. So between the 6 people not showing up for work, the pile up on the turnpike, the Wi-Fi went out for an hour and a half just as the show was starting. I lost my phone for however long it was, and then the air conditioning did not anticipate what was going on. It was bad. I remember probably at its worst, like around like 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the afternoon on Saturday. I was out dealing with the customer who was upset. And I feel like when I walked through those turnstile doors, I walked into an iguana tank. Like, it was disgusting in there. And I don't deal well in the heat, period. Put my room on 64 degrees, keep it like a vegetable aisle in a grocery store. That is where I'm at. And that was exacerbating everything. Every special guest was late to their table. No one was able to go out to the side door to greet them because everyone was putting out all the other fires. So it kept backing up of people being mad at me. And it's not because I'm the only guy running the show. I'm not the only guy running the show. My partners, AJ and Stan, we've been together since day one. They are the logistics guys that are everything that I'm not. And this is going to sound so like pandering type stuff, like, oh, yeah, okay. We very much are like the Lee, Kirby, and Ditko trio, because Stan, not a people person, and he admits it. He is the behind-the-scenes guy. He's got the glasses and the beard, and he's always working very hard. It's because of Stan that our floor plan is down to the inch, because he's a construction engineer in real life. So he can take a CAD design of a room and build it out to the inch. AJ is very much like Kirby. He has a great creative mind. He likes doing things that are going to surprise people and make them happy, but he's not someone who wants to be the guy on social media doing things like that. So inadvertently, while I have the experience, and I guess you could say some of the artistry that Stan Lee might have not, I end up being put there because I'm the most comfortable on the internet, because as you guys know, I've been entrenched in it for 16, 17 years as my full-time career. And, you know, that's just the way that it works. So when you have the three of us and all three of our cages are rattled, man, it got really ugly. It got very, very ugly behind the scenes, and it was one of the first times where, you know, team members were kind of screaming at each other on the radio and things like that. And that's something I don't deal with. I don't deal well with that at all, because I like wearing an earpiece when I'm radioed up, because I don't want to do that. Go for Paul. Go for and I can't hear, and I'm trying to do this. I like to be mic'd up so I can just go, yeah, got it, like, and I'm good. So I didn't have that. I was out of my comfort zone. It was like my binky. I didn't have my binky of an earpiece and a microphone here. I kept reaching for it, like, fuck, someone save me. Like, if there was like a life alert button, I would have hit it 100 times. So we were all rattled. The door got inundated, as you know. You know, Saturday was just like a bum rush for like 4.5 hours, close to 5 hours nonstop. It was insane. And so all the new people in their areas, they were the ones, you know, they didn't have the experience, and it just caused things to back up. And by the end of the day, everything was running perfect. It was awesome.
Yes.
It really, really was. And I think that everyone, for the most part, could feel the palpable vibe on Sunday was just way easier. Everybody felt good. Eventually, Menti got back with banners. And because the funny thing, so on my ride down with Jim Shooter on Friday, I get the call that the banners, none of the special guest banners showed up. And I mean comic artist guest banners. So imagine this. We have all the banners up for all the media guests rolling out the red carpet and stuff like that. And none of the comic artist legend guest banners showed up.
Ouch.
So already we're kind of taking that hit. It's like, oh, you guys are forgetting about the comic artists. You're already going celebrities. And then none of them have banners all day Saturday. Because I think, John, you were able to get them like end of day Saturday, I think it was. Here's the problem.
Oh, dude, it was 6 hours with banners.
Time doesn't exist when I'm in that mode. When I am in show mode, there is no time. There is like no emotion. There is no... You have to be able to juggle 15 things at once and take care of 6 problems at a time. And the only time that whole weekend that was quiet, and I mean this with all sincerity, was when my family showed up. When my wife and my children showed up, it was like that scene in a movie where, you know, I felt like Randy Quaid in Independence Day. You know, tell my kids I love them. I get on the radio and I'm tracking my wife's ways so I don't get pulled into something else. And I see her coming up Monmouth Road, and I get on the walkie-talkie and I say, Paul, to the floor. In the next 45 minutes, I do not exist. If you see me, do not bother me. My family is coming. Handle it. I trust all of you. And I turn my radio off. Even in the midst of all the chaos that was still going on, I turned my radio off. I walk out front to the parking attendants, who also were learning what they were doing that weekend, right? This is the Dome staff, and not in a bad way learning what they were doing, but there was like, this was an exercise in figuring everything out. And I walk up to Dan, the manager, who, by the way, Dan is absolute rock star. He came on like less than 2 months ago at the Dome, and he's really helped things out. Because before that, they were very disorganized with the Dome at times because they had a lot of changeover. But since Dan came on, they've been great. I walk out front, and the sand just starts blasting me. You know how that was. I'm like, oh, my God, yeah. And, like, I'm, you know, I walk up to them, and I just start moving the traffic cones. And, like, what are you doing? I was like, my wife is pulling up. They're like, she can't park up front there. I was like, I $52,000 to be here this weekend. I can park. And that was me just going into primal dickhead Paul Brown. I've had enough. I went over and I apologized to the person, and I literally pulled my wife right up front, as close as you could be, got the stroller, and I walked in with my boys. And for that hour and 15 minutes, that was the only peace that I had all weekend. I did not enjoy myself almost at all weekend, with the exception of going outside and telling Stefan Kapicic what I do for a living and explaining it to him. Bro, oh shit, man. He's like, wow. Like, he's like, wow. Like, I kept hearing that from him. And yes, Menti, you were out there.
I was there. I watched that.
I just put that little visual part of you hanging out there as well. That, you know,
I was still trying to talk to you about banners.
yeah, and I didn't know.
You were like, come with me. I was like, okay, I'm going to watch this.
Yeah, well, I didn't know that. Like, I become so oblivious when I'm in do or die event mode. I'm in survival mode at that point because I don't have to worry about me. I have to save this event for everyone else, whether they see the problems going on behind the scenes or not. So when my family was there, when I was talking to Stefan outside, those were the only times that I really think I actually enjoyed the entire weekend.
You could see, though, that everybody at the show, especially when you were walking around with your family, very much appreciated what you did. Because it was just like you were the Don. Like, as you were walking through, everyone was just handing you gifts. And I was like, oh, for the kids, make sure. Like, every booth I saw you at, it was like, oh, Paul, come here. But it was awesome. But it was great. It was awesome.
That's what the show is built on. The show, some of the people vending there have been with us since Middletown Comic Show 2019. They have ridden every bumpy road with us. They've seen what we've gone through firsthand. And I think that if maybe I can dial back how much I verbally vomit on the internet from the show's pages, because everybody knows it's me just going on like one of those 19 paragraph things. Like, that's what's built our repertoire with everyone from people who have been VIPs since day one, with the sponsors who've been with us every single time we fucked up, and the VIPs with every time we fucked up. That whole show was never built on, we are going to make the best event and we're going to make a shitload of money, because it ain't happened. And it's the whole foundation of the show was based on building relationships. From day one, we were giving people more than we should have or could have at the time, to the year in 23 when we refunded every red cent of ticket money and saw 3,500 people through the door, largest show ever, and we were ruined financially. And it was everything. We're going to make this okay for everyone. We should have canceled that show, but the planes were booked, the hotels were booked, the deposits were paid, everything was done. And it's, you can't ruin the time for everyone else. I am the one, me and my partners are the ones who brought you all here. I have to make sure you enjoy yourself now, no matter how much I legitimately wanted to die. I kid you not, there was a point where I could just feel the static crawling into my line of sight, and I was like, I am going to die from a panic attack right now. And listen, I'll be honest with you, a lot of it was money based as well, because if you think about the amount of revenue that we had coming in that weekend for ticket sales at the door, but that's all digital money. That's all. That's not money that I can pay a guest if they don't meet their guarantee, or pay a guest if they this or that. Because I'll be frank with you, we didn't. Not everyone met their guarantee, which, despite insane attendance numbers that we had, all time high, all that money was up in digital. So on Sunday, when everyone's expecting to get out of here, go home and get paid, I'm sending this person with this debit card to that bank, this person with this. I'm giving away all of the plastic that represents my financial existence from, our Comic-Con, and I'm transferring money from here to here to here so they can take out this amount, because, we were kind of building up to it. We were robbing Peter to pay Paul a little bit from our situation in 2023 financially, but everything was going okay. We just didn't realize all the money that had to come out and look through our contracts that were in cash getting paid out. And that is what kind of set the second half of Sunday on fire. And I saw you, John, when you guys were doing your show wrap-up, you said he drove up to New York to get Jim Shooter. You know what I didn't do? Remember to take Jim Shooter home.
I bet you that conversation was fun.
I will say this. Jim does not hold a grudge. He does not at all. I called him, I want to say Wednesday. And that is the basis of a lot of problems that happened on Sunday, second half of the day. And then I knew Larry Lieber was coming in the door, and I've got that whole thing worrying me right there. I'm like, I am the one who sent the initial email to Frank, who is one of his best friends with Danny Fingeroff and all them, and I'm the one who sent this email that now brought Larry Lieber here. This is my fault or my win. And so I'm stressing about that. I got people in my ear who want to leave. I got no money when I got to be giving out a lot of money. There was a part of me that kind of wished I would have had a heart attack right there so I could get carted out of the place and no one could be mad at me. Because while all of you were having an amazing time and the vendors seemed to be enjoying themselves, I got to walk around with my family for 45 minutes and I hated almost every other minute of the weekend. And it was the goal for 2026 is for me to enjoy our convention. I want to be able to walk over to Mike DiCarlo's booth, who told me the other day he had the best weekend of his career.
Wow.
Better than MegaCon. Better than Terrificon. But I was like, shut up. I was like, dude, shut up. And he's like, no. He goes, I did better at your show than any other 3-day convention I've ever done. And he goes, I loved it. And every time we have him, he asks to come back. And it's just like, I'm not dealing with an agent. I'm dealing with Mike DiCarlo, and that's the stuff that still blows my mind, is that I'm now, by, absolute purpose, if you will, finding a way like to now get to know the people who wrote all the stories that I grew up on. And I have to keep that going. Hell or high water.
When you feel like the show was a failure, in your own words,
Yeah.
and that you can't take it anymore, are those the moments that keep you pushing for a next year?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and they are, because I felt like a failure many, many times during Super Jersey weekend, because it was things that I knew, things that I was supposed to do, things that I was supposed to communicate and delegate, and ask anyone on the team who was working that weekend. The word of the weekend was delegate, because I do not know how to delegate, and I have never known how to delegate, because, number one, it's always just been me in terms of work, and a lot of times how I felt in life, right? So I need to survive, I need to go. But the problem that happened was, if I'm making a majority of the decisions and my team is not informed, if I cannot delegate, then everything will crash and burn. And the reason I never delegated was because I never wanted anyone to feel as if I was pushing them off on someone else. Menti, if you text me, we're talking about 26, and then I say, hey, do me a favor, just finish this conversation with blah, 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 blah. How would that feel as someone who's been my friend for 15 years, Yes, we're working on a business thing, but I've always felt like the relationship was the biggest part of everything, over money, over ego, over anything else. The relationship is what builds everything. And if I delegate too much to another person with someone who I'm already close with, it'll feel like I'm pushing them off, if that makes sense.
Yeah, you fought me on the going to Staples. I'll be up front. He didn't make me go to Staples. I offered. And he was not happy when I said it. No, you're going to stay. And I'm like, well, I'd rather go get the banners.
Yeah. That's the problem. That almost caused the show to crash and burn. There were other things behind the scenes that we had faced a couple months prior. Those are kind of like internal things that we're going to, hopefully address in the next show. But the biggest key is that I've already brought on 3 to 4 new people, who are now 3 to 4 people more who have ever worked on the show, which is me, Stan, and AJ. And that's what I don't think people realize. They see the way that our logo has changed, and it's gotten, I don't want to say simpler, but I almost feel like our logo now almost looks corporate, compared to like some of the, like if you take a look at the way Super Jersey Comic Expo looks now for this year's branding versus the very first one we did. The first one was very playful. And I just mean simple things. Like there was the color gradient of our first logo was literally meant to mimic the title of Back to the Future, right? And then I even put some of the the lines behind the arrow there. Whereas this year's, we changed up the branding because we said this was going to be our villain era, right? After everything that happened in 2023, we decided that we were going to do another show, and you saw all of our social media go from orange, blue, red, white, and blah, 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 to red, white, blue, and black. And it was almost like a planned transition to our villain era, that we were like, we're not going to stay down. Like, we're going to fight back, and we're going to show the people that fucked us over how badly they fucked up, because we're going to make this the biggest thing ever. So you can go straight through back, like you can see a distinct change. And I have never posted the old logo, the old branding ever since that changeover, and that was kind of by design.
Yeah, you yelled at me. I sent you that first video, and you were like, dude, change the logo.
Well, if anything, we're, like we did with the social media and the show, we created a narrative. We kind of created our own little kayfabe there, and I like the idea of being more aggressive with it next year. If you guys, do decide that, yes, we do want to come on, I want it to be more
we
like.
Decided already. What are you talking about?
Well, no, I saw.
You yelled at us again in the comments.
Right. I did. Well, no, again, I don't want I don't want you to think that it's not like an option to not do it. But the reason I reached out to you is because I understand now that strategic partners they're not just for building relationships, they're here to rely on, and while I do what I do, and I've done it for so long, you're the very first human beings I've ever handed anything over to social media wise. Eventually.
Sunday about 2:00.
And when I said you can just have it for as long as you want it, and I've never done that. Since 2009. I've been doing this internet BS stuff. I've never done that. And I knew because I watched you guys coming up. You kind of came back from everything, that happened or didn't happen with Fireside. And, that was a thing. And then it kind of, and then now's the new thing. And that was kind of similar to us. And I saw that you guys were fighting the good fight with, growing your fan base, growing your tribe, if you will. And I was like, I feel like you guys are at the same level as us in your fight. So do we want to team up? Yeah, let's fight together. And, I cannot wait to see what happens when I actually give you a full weekend to do it, and if we do sign back on with the Dome, which we have not yet, and some discussions need to be had before we do that, and hopefully we can come to an accord. I would love to continue going there. I don't want to move again. There are very few event spaces in the southern half of New Jersey, and I say southern half, like, let's call it basically, I don't know, like PNC Arts Center, exit 117, if you will, on the Parkway South, because that's where our old place was. I don't want to go up to Edison. I don't want to do Hoboken and Paramus. You're just living in the shadow of New York City, and there is nothing anywhere near event-wise that this will do. So I hope we don't have to move.
I don't think you should. I'm going to double down on this. It was the weirdest con I've ever been to in the best way possible. We went through a damn airlock. Yeah. we stood on ground up tires. You know how much easier that is? Not pushing stuff, not so much. That was not as fun. But as far as my feet by the end of the day.
For the first time in my event production life, my feet and my back didn't hurt Monday morning. I did not believe it. I was like, when is this coming though? No. Tuesday? No. Wednesday? No. Yeah. I mean, I think that with tweaking and with work on both sides, I think that the Dome could be a force to be reckoned with events. And I think that we could be the best Comic-Con in the region. Well, nothing against Baltimore or anything like that. Nothing against, anyone up, nothing against Big Apple Con. But I think that we are the only ones doing what we're doing.
Yeah, and in a bubble.
In a bubble.
In a bubble.
Literally.
Again, I can't stress this enough.
1.7 atmospheric pressure or something like that. You walk in and you have to go.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I was amazed when everyone was just waiting for the door to open. I'm like, what is happening? They were like, oh, no, they have to repressurize. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah.
That's a brand new experience.
There were so many aliens jokes at the airlock.
Oh, so many.
Yeah.
All right, well, okay. So one thing that Moshko said on our last show that I think was pretty important was you don't recognize it, Paul, but he said that it's how events deal with issues that makes them great. Because no event is without issues. And the fact that no one saw it, I mean, I saw it because I was around you, but had I not been, I would have had no clue outside of the air conditioner. That was literally the only thing that I was thinking, and that was something that a lot of people talked about. But past that, and the parking fiasco on day one, no one noticed a thing, and that is why everyone had a great time. So while you may have been stressed, what you created and what you did was 100% a success because no one experienced that. And honestly, I mean, I hate to keep harping on the air conditioner, but I feel like if the air conditioner wasn't a problem on day one, people wouldn't have had – the people who didn't make their money would have because it was incredible how quickly wallets opened the moment the air was on.
Yeah,
that was something that Mike from Comic Universe was saying. He was like, man, I'm not getting any sales. And he was talking to the other vendors around him. He's like, but we're not getting any sales either. And then all of a sudden it got nice. And then everyone made the money they were hoping to make. Yeah. It was incredible, the switch in the goers when that happened. So just imagine what that weekend would have looked like if that first day wouldn't have had that one issue. That is the only thing that people actually experienced on the floor. Outside of that, no one saw it. And that's a testament to you, my friend. That's not a testament to – that's a testament to resilience. And so while you might feel bad, remember that none of us experienced that. You succeeded.
Yeah, I appreciate that. It's hard. It's just hard to see it that way because we start everything ends with us, and we deal with everything in the middle. So I'm going to go to Heroes Con in June, and go see Uncle Jim and Uncle John again and hang out with them and peruse around a little bit. But yeah, no, you're not wrong. We see everything on the minutia, whereas everyone else is kind of just looking down from 1,000 feet up, and it's hard to not be that way. And my concern is if I'm worried about if I don't stay hard on myself about the events, then I will get careless about the events, but
it's not your nature.
But being disorganized in a way is a bit careless. So that is what I personally need to work on. We're bringing on, like I said, everything ever for the show up till the weekend of has been done by one of three people. It has been myself, Stan, or AJ have done everything for the show. Everything for every show has been us up until the weekend of. It can't be that way. If we want to play in the sandbox with the big boys, we need to put on our big boy pants. So things are going to change. Processes are going to change. We're going to do everything we can to not raise prices, but our prices are so insanely low for the size convention that we have. Are we doing ourselves a disservice by only charging X amount when we have this much to offer? But I don't want to be the convention that's $40 on Saturday and $35 on Sunday. I don't ever want that amount of money doesn't matter to me when it comes to the world of comics. I just want a great event. So we'll see what we have to. I know we have a nice little punch list of things we have to change. We brought on at minimum 3 people who I hope they're watching this, and if they are, you saved the weekend. And I look forward to being able to pass on to you things in future weekends that will make my life less of a living hell.
Well, I mean, it's disheartening to know that you didn't have the time that the rest of us did, but I will say thank you on behalf of those that didn't have the time you did.
Oh, I appreciate it, and I feel I will enjoy the event when I deserve to get to enjoy the event. When it becomes the final form of what myself and my partners are hoping for, I'll enjoy it then. Until then, I have to stay sharp and, minimize any blowback. And I think that the less problems that we have in upcoming years will result in me taking more time and enjoying it more.
You know what? I mean, I hate to say it this way, but you might not. But
Yeah.
I don't think that that's the moment that you live for. I think I have access to your socials now. I see the messages. I see the comments. I see the stories. I see the amount of feedback that you're getting from just all unbelievably positive. And I feel like that has to make it all worth it. So regardless on how you felt for 2 days, the way you're going to feel for the next month, I have a feeling is going to make up for that.
Yeah, and we've had more positive feedback this year maybe than all 3 years combined. And we've always had positive feedback. Yeah. How many subscribers have you guys gained since we hopped on together?
How many banners did you get, Paul?
Fair. Harsh but fair. It's, it is. I don't ever want that personal aspect of the show to go away. If it ends up being huge someday, great. I still want to be able to talk to people myself. I don't ever want to put it behind a wall where nobody knows who runs it, nobody knows who they can get a hold of. But I do know that if we want to grow, play in the big boy sandbox, we need to have a team in place to where I'm not responsible for finishing every little thing. And that's my problem. And we're trust me, we're already working on it. There are 3 people that know that they ain't going anywhere now. They're like, oh, sorry, you did way too good that weekend. You are staying right on, which is why you guys are now stuck with us, because you guys did such a great job at pivoting and figuring out a way to just, continue harvesting content and features. I know that, you're conquering your, in front of camera, and besides Michael Jai White saying, you said doo-doo. It was great. Listen, I got to see Chris Veen. How bad could I possibly be? Chris Veen fucking vaults down from the rafters. And, hey, man, I'm like, when did you get here? How are you? Okay, I gotta go. I need to give someone a sandwich. Bye. No, it was great. You guys did great, and I think that that's what is going to end up. I hope, and this is not like one of those, it's going to be great for all of us. But like, I really hope that the people we decide to team up with now at this inflection point of the show are the people that we grow and grow and grow and grow with. I don't want to move from the Dome. There's no venues really like it. I hope that we don't have to, and we'll see what the coming weeks say to that. But I think that, like, just the people we've put in place, with you helping us out with signal boosts and everything like that, helping more of the internet and putting, honestly, more of a professional touch on it than I would have anywhere near the time to do. You are all doing exactly kind of what I do for a living, but I don't do it well when it's my own thing during the thing. So if I didn't bring, if we didn't come to the agreement with Super Jersey and that comic podcast, my social media might still not be what it is right now because you were able to help so much and put the word out. We've never really been able to get much professional content videoed at the show, lifestyle footage, B-roll, stuff like that. We've never really had that. And I was thinking about it earlier today. I was like, the fact that, out of the top of my head, I was like, fucking Menti and the guys. One day when you were talking about something, you popped up and I was like, oh, because I'll be honest, I hadn't kept up with every detail about, the tail end of Fireside and all that, but life happens. But you were like the first one to really pop into my mind when I was like, maybe it'd be a good idea to have someone who's like-minded, who's in that comic sphere, that like our comic convention is the event version of your podcast.
I think so. I agree.
And I think that's why it works so well, is because I would need a ragtag team, of Bad News Bears like yourself to complement mine.
Well, that's why we left Huey at home.
Wow. Wow.
That's the only reason. And
I'll see myself out.
Just turn your camera off. It's cool.
I'm surprised you haven't already.
Wow.
It really. I think it just really does work. God, this is going to sound so corny, but we are a big team of Thunderbolts, guys. We are all delightful.
Way to bring it back.
Yeah. And with that, bye-bye.
Segway
Well played.
We are all our own incredibly disorganized, good at heart people for the most part. We're just all finding our way in this weird, scary, angry world, and I just want to hang out with other people that love comics and movies, and that's it. And I think I can't wait to see what happens when I actually give you a level playing field to play on all weekend, because my Lombardi playbook up here just doesn't go like this to people, and that's what I'm working on.
Well, you know what's going to be interesting is that we have content now for a good while. So instead of me rushing your socials I'm going to have a couple videos up each week. So this con, for a lot of people who didn't get to experience it, it's now going to be a regular occurrence day to day for the next couple months, I would argue, because Features was nonstop for like 5 hours each day.
Yeah.
Like, Features didn't take many breaks. So I have so much content to play with. And if you think the weirdest thing that Michael John White said was him saying doo-doo, I got some good ones.
I can't wait.
I got some good ones.
That poor guy, he was tired. He came right from filming in Louisville, up. He landed at the airport at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning.
Ooh.
He was a trooper. He was a sweetheart. The dream come true for me right there. Honestly, I'll be honest with you. I was totally selfish in this guest list this year. I booked people that I wanted to meet.
Well, good.
I mean, yeah.
Hey, jerk on. You can do what you want.
Yeah, but you know what? It ended up working for the most part great for everyone, and I'm friends with Colossus now, so that's all that matters. And I got to hang out with my childhood Superman. I got to hang out with the best guy who's ever played Colossus. I got to last minute we added Zoom. Like, that was, I kid you not, that was a week before the show. Literally, we started with I think it was similar to how we got Ross Marquand. Ross Marquand followed us on Instagram one day, and I was like, and I messaged him and I said, "You following us mean you want to come to our convention?" And I sent him this emoji. And he goes, what? He was like, "When are the dates?" And I was like, telling him, "Okay, let me talk to my people." And it turned out his people were the same people that we already had Cal Dodd with. So that worked out very easily. And then Teddy Sears kind of happened the same way. A buddy of mine from California works with him out there. And Teddy was like, yo, bro, get me to Jersey. And I'm like, I just might. Thank you. And that deal came about very fast, and we did it very last minute, and I don't regret it at all. It was great, but the processes have to change. It can't just all be up here.
But you had to go through it first. Yeah. You had to take it from a 3 to a 7 for you to understand how to make it to an 8.
Correct. And that is what we hope to do. I do think that we will. I will say this now, because if I put it into the universe, it'll materialize. I do believe that we should dial back the amount of media guests that we have every year. I think our show would work better with, put it this way, and I'm not saying just not have guests in placement with them, but what if, and again, I will say it to get it out into the universe and manifest it, what if we get the Todd McFarlanes, the Kevin Eastmans, the Frank Millers? So see what I mean now? Imagine, no, listen to me. And imagine a dream lineup here, right? 2016 is 10-year anniversary from the first Deadpool movie, 35 years. Is it New Mutants 98, 1990 or 91?
I didn't hear what you just said.
Is New Mutants 98, 1990 or 1991?
91.
91. So we have a 10-year anniversary of the Deadpool movie, 35-year anniversary of the Deadpool character. So what if I were able to get, Fabian and Rob Liefeld?
Ooh, under one roof. That'll be fun.
And that's what I mean. So imagine if I think we had 11 or 12 media guests, right, this year, and we had 26 comic artist guests. What if I went down to 5 to 6 media guests, but I replaced them with 5 Jim Lees,
That's what Baltimore does. They get the big creator to come through, and then the gold level VIPs sell out. They're lined up around the building, out the door for it. I've been in those lines.
You saw what Larry Lieber was like for the 3 hours he was there. Man, that line was
and that was all that we allowed. That was all that we allowed. In my initial email with them, I wrote out the whole plan, and one of those stipulations. One of those stipulations was Larry Lieber will not sign for more than 3 hours at my show because I will not allow it.
Well, I mean, I need you to catch your breath, but I do want to say the Larry, the post that I saw, someone made a comment that they were scared about how Larry was going to be treated because of the most recent Stan Lee documentary that came out. Yeah. And your response, not only in the comments, but your response, that long form response, I feel like put everyone at ease. I feel like it was handled beautifully, especially with fresh off the heels of a pretty horrific documentary that could have put people in a weird spot to whether or not they wanted to stand in line. But because of how it was handled, once again, how it was handled, everybody was excited and no one seemed worried.
Right. Yeah, we definitely got a couple comments of, obviously that nature. And I wanted to cut that thing off at the knees right away and say, listen, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. I get what you're saying. But you need to know this, is that we are doing this from Larry was emailed from the heart because I wanted him to see him celebrate his novel. This was not about getting Larry Lieber, the co-creator of Iron Man and Ant-Man. Yes, that was done in the marketing and the promotion so that way people would see it. I wanted to give Larry an official welcoming into the world that he is in now, his very first novel after 74 years in comics. I wanted to give that to him because it wasn't about me booking Larry Lieber, the creative Iron Man. That was me thanking Larry Lieber for everything that he created by giving him a celebration of his first ever novel. Nobody's going to ever see it that way, but that's why I approached it. And because I approached it that way from my heart, that I wanted to give him a thank you party, if you will, with the signing and the panel and have everybody come see him, that was my thanks. That was not me booking Larry Lieber to say that I booked the co-creative Iron Man. That was me giving Larry a public thank you to everyone, and he had a blast. And I laid that out in the very beginning from the very first email, and that's what got the deal done. That was it. I never just talked about him doing the comic stuff or anything. I said, let's push your book. Push the book. Let's do a book release party. And, yeah, that was amazing. But that was strictly on, you're only allowed to sign for a couple hours, and then I'm sending you home. We're sending the largest, comfiest SUV that we can find for you and your closest compatriots. We are putting you in a private room by yourself so you're not in the middle of the floor of thousands of people at 93 years old. We are putting you in a separate room. We are putting you in the comfiest chair that you can possibly fit in. There will be cold cuts and cheese and salami and all that stuff behind the curtain because that's what he liked to eat, because he eat like a bird, and I think he wasted $300 in catering that I spent on him. But my entire interaction with Larry was it was towards the end of when my family was there, and I had Jack on my shoulders, and I was like, do you want to go see Uncle Larry? And he said, Uncle Larry, and he's just starting to talk, right? I'm like, oh my God. And I just remember the look. I just walked by everybody in line to go in the exit from him, right? And he wasn't in there, but he was behind the curtain, just sitting there, eating, his little thing. I took my wife, Jennifer, behind. She goes, where are we going? I was like, we're going where I say we're going, because this is all ours, right? And I just walked behind the curtain there. He was just sitting in there, just, tiny little man. And I said, Larry, you don't know me from Adam. You've never heard my name, I'm sure, but I'm the one who wanted to bring you here, and I want to thank you so much for coming here. I cannot believe I'm just sitting here with you right now. And he goes, well, I appreciate you coming to me about my book. And that was the very first thing he said. And I was like, we did it right. So great. We got the honor of, booking Larry Lieber, the comic writer and artist legend. Yeah, that's great. But I got to officially usher in Larry Lieber's new lease on life at 93 years old. That's that little deputy badge right there, man.
Well, I just to put a nice little bow on things, I have been to comic conventions all around the world. I just found out, I don't remember this, I was at the first ever San Diego Comic-Con when I was a toddler. I have been...
That sounds made up.
That's fair, you can believe that. But I literally, through many states, I've been to a lot of comic conventions, and Buzz can also attest to this, Features can attest to this. Hell, you and I have run into each other at God knows how many Comic-Cons in the first, 4 years of me doing this show. Yep. I had a phenomenal time, even though I wasn't there, because I was happy to do it for you. So
appreciate that.
It was an outstanding show, and it was you could see and feel the love that you put into it. I know you're horrible with compliments, but you're just going to have to sit here and deal with it for a second, because I had a blast. They all had a blast, and that was off your hard work. So thank you very much for not only the opportunity, but for what you were able to provide.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you very much.
And with that, we're going to move on.
I will say this. I am 5 a.m. very early when it's 9:45 at night, and I would legitimately sit here and chat with you guys until the sun comes up. But with the family getting up early for work, and the boys also don't get up much after that, if I want to maintain whatever the hell this shape is I've got going on now, I need to get my big old ass up at 5 o'clock on the dot every weekday.
Let's find a time. We get you a microphone and get you some headphones, and then have you come back on it a little bit more regularly. I want to hear more about the Danger Room. I want to there's some other things that you're doing I'd love to hear about. So
you're
let's
not
get
just going to use me for my con. No? Okay, got it.
I mean,
your contacts.
Hey, if you happen to be texting Teddy Sears anytime soon, just can you
remember how we were friends?
I would like to. No, I like that. It's life has just been very hectic for the last couple of years, honestly, and building this thing behind the scenes is I couldn't even. I think I've talked so much tonight. Good Lord. Yeah, you got caught up from the con. Hey, you wanted to see me in the con. No, I like that. I would like the idea. I have been meaning to upgrade my tech and stuff like that. And I kid you not, I was going to go out and buy a new webcam and a set of headphones and a microphone for tonight, but just life got in the way. I'm also, me, I'm also not good at sticking with things all the time. I like to go from bing to bing. So it is my goal to stick on Super Jersey, to stick on Danger Room, to honestly, to everything down to just getting back into reading new comics regularly. Because I want to say it's been like Carnage Volume 2 for me was the last one that I taught.
Oh, and Carnage was so good recently.
Yeah, and that's, I want to say, when Walmart was doing those Walmart comic packs, I was going every week and I was scooping up everyone. I've got hundreds just still sitting in the packs back here. And I remember going through some of the King in Blacks and stuff like that. And it was nice. It was so nice reading those one-off issues. But a run that I've literally, we're talking 2016 Carnage run was, I think, the last one that I think I went through. What was that, 15, 20 issues or something like that? That was the only one. And it is now 2025. So having my ear to the ground with so many new artists, I hear about what they're releasing and what's coming up, and I get to ingest a little bit of it through digital means and things like that. But I don't have a local comic shop that gets in new comics down here by Atlantic City. That doesn't exist here. So the idea of being kind of like more on the pulse of what's going on, I don't hate it. I would love to try and come back every now and then, as long as you have 9 hours to hear me talk.
You have an open seat, but I will cut you off more often.
This is my mulligan. I get this one.
This was for you. I really wanted to hear what the behind the scenes was like as a person who got to kind of tiptoe behind the scenes. But I do think that as long as you have the availability, whenever we record, you've got a seat. So
appreciate that. Thank you.
Update your stuff first. But no, go. I appreciate your time. I appreciate all of the stories, and I know you got to get back to your family. So thank you once again for joining us, and hopefully this is a more common occurrence. And I cannot wait to see what next year's all about. And if you want ideas, I'm sure we've got plenty.
Yeah. I like the idea of let's start. I'll start timing some announcements that maybe we announce on this podcast for the show. Like if you want to hear it first, you got to tune in here. Something like that.
Look at you. Mwah.
Gems. Just throwing gems.
Yeah. It's all over. Yeah.
Well, go get some rest. Give the family the love, and you were awesome as always.
Know you.
Missed you and happy to have you back.
Seeing you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Later, Bob.
That's that, huh?